Down one body and a couple of hours early. Let the debates begin. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
They could be the two most pivotal days of this election campaign, the leaders' debates. Today in French, tomorrow in English. And the biggest news of the day about the debates is who won't be there. The Leaders' Debates Commission announced this morning the Greens have been uninvited. Invitation was revoked because the Green Party admitted it wouldn't be running a full slate of candidates for strategic reasons. The strategic reasons being the Greens didn't want conservative candidates to win in various ridings across the country. The commission concluded that decision was inconsistent with party viability and would undermine the integrity of the debates. So they're out. At an event today in Montreal, the party's co-leader, Jonathan Pedneau, slammed the decision.
The commission itself admitted in its letter that we received this morning at 7:20 that their decision infringes on our freedom of expression, but more importantly, that it infringes on the right of Canadians to be informed when they go to the poll and make their decision about who will lead this country moving forward.
Pedneau then went on to insist that he'll be debating with the other leaders later today.
I fully expect to be at the debates tonight. I fully expect the debate commission to reverse their decision, their undemocratic decision. Because we're not here to be polite spectators where others argue about how to manage the situation we're in. We're here to bring back hope in the hearts of Canadians. We're here to build, to grow, to give Canadians a reason to look to the future with hope in their hearts and light in their eyes.
The debate will start earlier than planned at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. That's because the Montreal Canadiens are trying to secure a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Habs' final regular season game is tonight at 7. And if they win, they're in. If they lose, the Habs have to await the outcome of a Columbus Blue Jackets game tomorrow night to learn their fate. Given the popularity of the Habs in Quebec, the commission agreed with the leaders of the Bloc Québécois and the NDP that the hockey game would be a distraction from the debate, so it moved the start time up. So then there were four, and Mark Carney is the perceived frontrunner, the Liberal leader, and the person with unquestionably the worst French of the bunch. Carney was asked by a Francophone news reporter this week if he plans on playing offense or defense.
I'm going to concentrate on neither attack nor defense, but I will focus on transparency to inform those Canadians who choose to watch the debate instead of the Habs game, and we'll leave it to the Habs to decide the right combination of attack and defense over the course of the grand match.
Mr. Carney, like all the other party leaders, didn't have any public events today. He is spending the day doing last-minute rehearsals. The Liberal Party has been climbing in the polls in Quebec, and most of that support is coming at the expense of the Bloc Québécois. The leader of that party, Yves-François Blanchet, said in recent days that he views today like a birthday gift. He's been telling news reporters he's not running for prime minister, and he hopes voters will think twice about giving either the Liberals or the Conservatives a majority government.
Canada will decide who is their prime minister. I'm not interfering in that. I will live with whoever wins, but I hope that we will have the wisdom not to give carte blanche to anybody because anybody seems to justify it. We see what's coming in the coming months, only 1 year maybe. But a majority government is there for 4 years. I don't want to imagine what damages could be done to Quebec economy, to Quebec language, to Quebec values, to Quebec immigration, to Quebec environment if we were to give a majority government to any of those two guys.
Quebec has been slim pickings for the NDP since the orange wave of the Jack Layton days. Before the election was called, the NDP had just one MP in the entire province, Alexandre Boulris, and the boundaries of his riding have been redrawn. Recently, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has also stopped claiming he's running for prime minister. He's been suggesting instead the best outcome from this election for his party would be another minority government.
A plane needs a left wing to stay afloat, as was like the great analogy. In this time, really, it's about who's going to fight for you. Like, who's really going to put you and your family first? In all of this uncertainty and all of this potential chaos, when people are really worried about what's going to happen to them, happen to their jobs, happen to the services that they need, I'm going to take on Mark Carney for the fact that he is proposing massive cuts to the services that people need. He has said that he's going to cut the operating budget. He has laid out what's in the operating budget. He said that includes transfers to health, to individuals, and transfers to provinces. He has said clearly that he wants to balance that, and that's going to cost $43 billion. He's going to cut services by $43 billion. And yet, he gave away $19 billion to millionaires. His priorities are all wrong. I'm going to take him on that. I'm going to take on Pierre Poilievre, who wants Canada to be the United States in all but name.
The Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, was supposed to have a campaign event today, but that was canceled, likely having to do with the early start time for the debate. This will be the first time Poilievre and Carney will meet in a leaders' debate, but they have sparred before. This old clip has been making the rounds on social media lately, an exchange between the two 3 years ago. During a House of Commons committee, Poilievre was still wearing glasses back then, and he was questioning Mark Carney's support for pipelines.
Do you support the Prime Minister's decision to veto the Northern Gateway pipeline, Mr. Carney?
I understand the veto of the Northern Gateway pipeline.
Do you support it?
Given both environmental and commercial reasons.
Do you support it?
I think it was sensible. I wasn't involved in the decision, but I think it was the right decision.
And yet your company has invested billions of dollars in oil companies in both Brazil and the UAE to buy pipelines. You bought billions of dollars of
pipelines. That may be a preview
pipelines.
of what's to come. The topics for tonight's French language debate are the cost of living, energy and climate, the trade war, identity and sovereignty, and immigration and foreign affairs. Scheduled to last 2 hours. Start time 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
You have questions
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers
on News Radio.
Well, he's our expert in communications, political communications, leadership, and today, debate preparation. Barry McLoughlin back with us, who's prepared candidates for a few debates over the course of his career. Barry's the president of TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. He lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa, the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University, and you can read Barry on his Substack. How are you today?
I'm great, Rob, right here on Via Rail on my way to Toronto.
Okay, good for you. Okay, well, I thank you for joining us from the train. So I do want to start with the newest news and the Green Party's exclusion from the debates. I'm wondering how that impacts how the leaders prepare for these events. There were supposed to be 5, now there'll be 4. How does that change things?
Well, if your French is weak, the less you speak, the better. So it would have dropped by 1/5. It would have been, it would have benefited Mark Carney in that sense. Probably the one that is most relieved at it is Jagmeet Singh. It can't be any spillage to the green. He can't afford much of that. So they're being removed from an opportunity to connect with voters who otherwise wouldn't even consider them. So I can see why it's such a loss for the Greens, but certainly a benefit for some of the candidates. But your real strategy in that situation is, who am I going to ignore in this debate? Like, if Mark Carney spends most of his time railing against Jagmeet Singh, that is so off strategy. Oh, my God. So you have to decide, who am I targeting and who am I ignoring? You got to get that right.
Okay. So you've been in the rooms for the rehearsals. You've played the parts of debate opponents in mock debates. So tell us a little bit about the preparation that goes into these things.
Well, yes, you do, first of all, try to have, what are our core messages we want to get across? On these, we would call them not the proactive messages that you want to get across, but on the reactives. What are the dozen questions you're going to get or issues, and what is our key points in rebuttal of that? Usually when you're being attacked, you would spend the first half rebutting it and the second half of your answer bridging over to the message you need to get across, or counter-punching that person that just smacked you. So, if, for example, I anticipate that Poilievre will attack Carney for the two Chinese candidates that only one of them dropped out, the other one didn't, he might hit him on that. But then, of course, for Carney, he'd respond to that, but then he would hit him on, well, if you had your security clearance, you'd be able to see what's really going on. Boom.
Right.
So you have to be ready with your counterpunches as well. Those are all simulated. They're all prepared. When do you bring it out? Don't lead with your chin. So, I remember coaching Bernard Lord, and, in the simulation, I actually, he actually said to me, I'm the same age as Frank McKenna was when he ran. He was only 33. He had no political experience. So I, playing the role of the Liberal Premier, Camille Thériault, I looked at him and I said, Mr. Lord, I served in Frank McKenna's cabinet for 10 years. I'm a friend of Frank McKenna.
Right.
Believe me, no Frank McKenna. That would have been, we all burst out laughing because that would have been the end of it. So the strategy was wait until the Premier inevitably brings up Frank McKenna's name and then hit him. Why did you mentioned Frank McKenna's name, and he did this on cue. You mentioned Frank McKenna's name. Why did you ignore, why did you turn aside Frank McKenna's promised 10% tax cut? We couldn't afford it. The cupboard was bare. Headline the next day, Lord, the next McKenna? Boom. So it's strategic. When you don't lead with your chin, make sure you know what the counterpunch is going to be.
Let me ask you about hard and fast rules about performance. For example, when do you want to be looking at the opponent? When do you want to be looking at the camera? Those kinds of things. What is your advice on that?
Usually you look at the person who's asking you. Otherwise, you look like you're dodging and ducking them. So you look at them. If they're going on for their full 60 seconds, you can either take a note or you can shake your head slightly from side to side, because the visual upstages the verbal, upstages it. So if you're shaking your head from side to side, really what goes on there is the director in the control room says, take that shot. So now you have upstaged visually that person. And then you can look into the lens when you want to respond through the lens. And you can actually encourage the director to come to you early, that you signal to your close-up camera, I'm about to come in. You signal non-verbally rather than interrupting verbally. You interrupt non-verbally. And then the director will go, ready, camera two, take two. So the director will take you, and you are now shaping the coverage, because you know what encourages the director to take a close-up of you. So those are part of how to use the camera to your advantage.
Okay. We'll stop here. When we come back, Mark Carney, the front runner, what awaits him tonight? What kind of Poilievre will we see? Attack dog, prime minister in waiting, maybe a little bit of both, depending on the situation. Barry McLoughlin with us here on a Wednesday today from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, on Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Back with Barry McLoughlin from TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Mark Carney is the front runner. He also has the worst French. It's a French language debate. What do you think awaits him?
He is going to be attacked like he's never been attacked before. He's going to be hammered and skewered in every possible way by Pierre Poilievre, by Monsieur Blanchet. And you'll also get it from Jagmeet Singh. So he's going to get it from all sides. No question about it. This is their last chance, certainly in Quebec, for Quebec voters. And so I think you're going to see a very, very tough experience for Mr. Carney.
Okay. What kind of Pierre Poilievre do you expect to show up tonight? I mean, he has the reputation of being a pit bull, but he surely he wants to present himself as a leader. What do you think, Barry? What are we going to see?
Well, I think we can't help but see the edgy, questioning, tough shots taken by Pierre Poilievre. He's not going to suddenly change overnight, but you are right. He does have to kind of find a way to balance that out by being, positive and uplifting and real and authentic, and connect directly to the viewer at home. I always say, imagine you're in the living room of the family that you need to reach, your voter universe. They're the family. Speak directly to them for their concerns, anxieties, and needs and aspirations. Have that conversation. All to make the mistake of arguing with each other on and on, over-talking each other. It's a nightmare. I would not recommend it at all. Usually you break through it non-verbally, look to the camera, director comes to you, and then you begin. The moderator will notice you're doing that and allow you to come in. So that's some of the techniques. But I think, Poilievre, this is his chance to introduce a more, a prime minister in waiting. This is what you have to do now late in the campaign. Are you a prime minister in waiting, or are you just an attack dog? If you're an attack dog, we've seen that for 2 years. So we need to see, is there a prime minister lurking there that we need to count on and have representing Canada, especially at this very challenging time?
Okay, we talked a little bit last week when you were with us about managing expectations. I think one of the fatal mistakes the Conservative War Room made back in 2015 when it was Harper, Mulcair, Trudeau getting ready for a debate was Corey Tenike, whose name has been in the news, said Justin Trudeau will do well if he shows up with his pants on.
Yeah.
And that was such a dumb thing to say, because then Justin Trudeau showed up with his pants on. And he didn't make a fool of himself. He handled himself okay. And then people thought, well, I'll give this guy another look.
Yeah.
Managing expectations. Just a few minutes on that, please.
Absolutely true. You're not going to be declared, an incredible victor. You had all the right answers and everything. Not at all. It's really, you exceeded expectations. So right now, Mark Carney has a chance to exceed expectations. He has the lowest expectations going into this debate tonight on his grasp of French. Good. Let's see you exceed that. Okay, that's point number one. I think, and I think that the problem is that for Mr. Blanchette, he would normally be the one, but actually apparently the one that has highest hopes is percentage is actually Pierre Poilievre himself. They actually expect him to do well. That's kind of a reverse situation than you'd like to have. You'd like to go in with low and exceed it. And that's what Justin Trudeau did in 2015. He exceeded expectations. And he didn't really necessarily blow by blow beat the two of the best debaters in Canada, Tom Mulcair and Stephen Harper. No, but he stood his ground. He held his own with them, and that exceeded expectations. He wasn't just nice hair that the Tories have spent gazillions of dollars doing commercials on.
Yeah.
But in the end,
the expectations are now for Mark Carney, they are pretty low. Well, doesn't speak French, not a polished politician, hasn't spent 2 decades in the pit of the House of Commons debating things. But you don't want to, you don't want to oversell the expectations of Mr. Poilievre's performance, I think, here.
Right, exactly. So I think it's a reverse situation here. I think on the English side, there's a very high expectation. I think 41% or something like that believe that Mark Carney will win the English debate. So he's going into the English debate with very high expectations. And Poilievre has a real opportunity in the English debate to exceed those better than he does on the French side. So we'll see what happens on that one. But in the end, 55% of the Believe message is nonverbal. Do you look upset? Do you look tight? Do you look chippy and defensive? Do you look warm, reasonable, fair-minded, addled in the room? Like they form these impressions heavily nonverbally, and it's important that they not ignore that tonight.
Gosh, so much to keep in mind. Okay. No wonder they rehearse so many times and for so long. Thank you. Thank you, Barry, from the train today, from Via Rail, somewhere between Ottawa and Toronto. Safe travels. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye. From TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants, Barry McLoughlin, the Newsday panel coming up next on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio. The Newsday panel.
Time for our Newsday panel with Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist, commentator, and Tim Powers, the chair of Summa Strategies, managing director at Abacus Data. Hello, everybody.
Rob, what's up?
Well, I'm just wondering who you like tonight, Habs or Hurricanes? We will talk about that.
The hockey game. Okay. The hockey game. The hockey game probably will be more exciting, but you never know.
I wonder. I'd be curious to see the ratings as well for the Habs game versus the French language leaders debate. But we're not here to talk about hockey. Well, we may touch on it, but I must ask you about the newest news first. The Greens are out. The Greens are out and not allowed to participate in the debates. What do you think of the decision from the Debates Commission? Neil Brody.
Well, that the Green Party has been included in the election debates for the past, whatever it is, 20, 25 years is a disgrace to the debates. the Green Party doesn't have official party status in the House of Commons, and there is no hope for them ever attaining 12 seats it takes to be recognized as an official party in the House of Commons. So I think that should automatically bar them from the debates.
Okay, so you agree with the decision then? They shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. Shouldn't have been allowed in the first place, you would say. Yeah, that was my position as well.
This now begs the question, why have the Bloc Québécois in the debates? They don't run candidates in every riding, so why should they be in a national debate? But I'll leave that for others to decide.
Yeah, maybe they could be in the French debate, but not the English debate. That's been one suggestion, for example, since they're not running any candidates outside of Quebec. Very good point there, Neil. What do you think about this decision? Green Party, you're out. Tim Powers, what do you think?
Well, I can't wait to see Elizabeth May's head pop off in rage, because that's going to happen. But I think I agree with everything Neil said. The only thing I would add is they shouldn't have been in this one in the first place, or the last one, or the others. But at least with this, what was supposed to be the thing with this debates commission, is they had criteria, right? And for weeks, they've known that the Greens weren't going to get at, I think the disqualifying criteria was 90% candidates across the country. They didn't have more than 2%, 4% of the vote. So how did we get this far? I mean, two big mistakes by this debates commission. First of all, the hockey game, back to that NHL schedule has been out since September.
Right.
And letting the Greens in the first place, knowing they didn't fit at least two of the three criteria, or three of the three criteria, that it just creates embarrassment for them more than anything else at this juncture.
To me, and I'd like to run this by both of you, I mean, I think the Green Party bears some of the blame here. It's a kind of a case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes for the Green Party. They said to the Debates Commission, oh, yeah, we're going to run a full slate of candidates. We'll meet this 90% threshold. No problem. And then they admitted, well, we're not going to run in 77 ridings because we want strategic voting. We fear the Conservatives could win in these ridings, and we know we won't win. So we'll let the Liberals and New Democrats fight over it. I mean, they're in some ways, Neil, they're kind of the author of their own misfortune, are they not? The Greens?
Yeah, they are. They're not a serious party. I don't know how much money they raise. I don't know what their internal party structure is like. But they've demonstrated for, like I said, 20 or 25 or 30 years that they are not a real federal party, that they've ever been entertained as a real federal party is a disservice to actual real federal parties. And, if they want to be in a debate with the also-rans, with the Marijuana Party and the Rhinoceros Party, they can be in that debate, but don't be in the debate where you're debating real parties that represent Canadians in the House of Commons.
Are they in some way authors of their own misfortune, Tim Powers?
They are.
They kind of played the Debates Commission for dummies, I think.
But it's not just this debate, right? Like they could have played, a smart game for a long time, which is get the 12, get the party status, and stop worrying about the trinkets and the baubles, right? Go be very strategic. Never mind not running in 77. Pick 40, maybe you win 10, 12 of them, and do that. So, but for so long, credit to Elizabeth May, she was able to use her performative skills to get them where they are now, but that string has run out, it seems.
What do you think about this debates commission? Why do we even have this thing? What do you think of the job that it's done, Neil?
Well, the debate commission was formed in 2018, if I remember correctly, and the commissioner is appointed by the Prime Minister. In this case, it's been Justin Trudeau since 2018. So we have a debates commission because the Liberal Party of Canada wanted direct control over how debates are run in order to protect and promote their own party and give themselves an easier path to victory. Also, I think it's because the Liberal left love having the government control most aspects of our life. There was no debate commission before 2018, and the debates ran well from what I remember. I expect if the Conservative Party forms government, we will see them disband this ridiculous duplicative party.
What do you think about the Debates Commission itself, the creation of this entity to conduct this exercise, Tim?
Well, I think it was, excuse me, it was modeled after the Presidential Debates Commission, but it's still a work in progress, and it really has struggled, I think, in the last set of debates where they were in place in 2021. There were, again, some issues with format and moderators and the way they went about that. This debate, we've just talked about those issues. You're never going to get it perfect, never, because there will always be critics, but they need to do better. I don't know if I'd throw them in the garbage yet, but I'd figure out what I've learned over these last two elections and see where they need to go. Because if they can be like the Presidential Debates Commission, which seemingly works okay, then that's all right. But they're on a short string, I suspect, with whichever government forms office.
I would just say I thought 2015 was kind of that was a good election year for debates. Like Rogers put on debate, Paul Wells did a debate, the Globe and Mail had a debate. There was the consortium debate. There was I think Monk put on a debate. The Monk debates,
Foreign Affairs,
right? And TVA had a debate. There were debates about all kinds of things. I prefer that.
Some leaders chose to go, and some leaders chose not to go to all those debates. That's for the government to be duplicating something that seemingly the private sector can run quite well. I don't understand it, and throw them in the garbage.
Okay, we'll talk about strategy, debate strategy when we come back. I'm Rob Snow. It's our Newsday panel. Let's talk about some strategy for tonight. The goals for each of these party leaders. Let's start with Mark Carney, who by all accounts is the front runner, and it's a French language debate. His command of the language, the worst of the four that will be there. What is his goal tonight? Survival, Neil? What do you think?
Well, you spoke about this last half hour with your guest. Mark Carney just has to show up and not throw it in the garbage pail. Much like Justin Trudeau in 2015, the expectations on him are so low that if he just manages to survive, it will be seen as a win. I assume his handlers have run him through the vocabulary that you need to use in a French language debate. If he makes a few mistakes but comes out generally able to get across his ideas in a language that he's not proficient in, there's your win.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Mark Carney from your point of view. Tim, what do you think is the main goal for tonight? Living to tell about it?
Well, that's all of our goals on any day, Rob, to be able to get up the next morning and walk.
True enough.
I think there's a couple of things I'd add to what Neil said. I do think the expectations are low, which should work for him. I think he also has got to show a degree of affability. He seemingly did that reasonably well in Tout le monde en parle because, again, if the polling numbers are to be believed, the biggest threat to the Liberals in Quebec is the Bloc. One of the things that Mr. Blanchette, I think, has done well is show that he's likable. And Mr. Carney needs to show a little bit of that, I think, too, if he can. He's been self-effacing about his French, the 6 out of 10 stuff and all of that. So I think he'll want to do a bit of that. I think, as Neil said, for him, he wants to avoid any major mistakes. He doesn't want any of these big pauses where, and any of us who are English speakers and try to speak French know what these pauses are when you're stopping, you're translating in your head.
Oh, yes.
He wants to avoid that for certain.
Okay. Well, Tim, what about Poilievre? What kind of Poilievre do you need to see tonight for him to be successful?
I think for Pierre, equally, he's got to project some comfort to Quebecers, some warmth. He is not as well liked in Quebec as he is perhaps in other parts of the country. I think he also has to demonstrate intelligence on issues and cultural sensitivity. And you've seen some of that, to be fair to him, this week, talking about some of the challenges he has in his own family with his daughter. I think people find that more endearing and humanizing. I think what he has to resist, and I'd love to hear Ian's take on this, is that he can't be the bully, forceful, aggressive one. That's when he gets himself in trouble. If he goes too far, he can beat up Carney, he can beat up Blanchette, but he can't be triumphal about that and rub it in their face. That will not go over well.
Okay. What do you think, Neil?
Mr. Poilievre has to appear human. He has been cast by the Liberals and their media friends as an angry, mean, Trump-like personality. I don't know if Mr. Poilievre's grasp of the French language allows him to be funny, but if he can score some points against Mr. Carney that make people laugh, that will tarnish Mr. Carney's image as a serious, thinker in Canada. No one likes to be laughed at, especially Mr. Carney. That could throw him off his game. Two other angles for Mr. Poilievre are, of course, hit Mr. Carney about his personal financial holdings. Mr. Carney does not like talking about that. Both French and English debates, Mr. Poilievre should go after that. And I think for Mr. Poilievre, keep hammering home his message of affordability. Are your children better off than you? Do you feel safe walking the streets? Mr. Carney, the Liberal Party, essentially has the island of Montreal sewn up. So it's going after the rural and remote parts of Quebec. I think as long as he sticks to his subjects, they've gotten him this far. I don't think Mr. Carney has a reasonable response to taxes, affordability, and crime.
Okay, be right back. Do you think, Neil Brody, these debates could really alter the course of this election campaign? And if so, how? What do you think?
The Liberals will win the vast majority of the seats on the island of Montreal by default. That's just what they do. This debate will be will impact the fight over the rest of the province. Conservatives sometimes do well in the suburban and rural seats around Quebec City. The NDP have done well across the province from time to time. It's really a question of whether the Bloc can make up the seats. I think the projections right now are the Bloc winning around 20 seats. That's down about a dozen from where they are right now. If Mr. Carney is revealed for what he is, a downtown elite who will continue the Liberal Party decade of darkness with high taxes, high crime, and low economic growth, then the Bloc has a fighting chance to win back some of those seats. And if the Bloc go up, get back, a dozen seats, that brings the Liberals back closer to a minority parliament. And I think that alters the course of the election campaign as we see it today.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, our friend Carl Belanger has talked in the past, Ontario. We focus on Ontario. We talk about 905, 905, 905. You got to win the 905 area code. Montreal has its own kind of 905. It's 450. You want to do well in 450, the suburbs around Montreal, Granby, Longueuil, Laval, places like that. But could these debates alter the course of this election campaign? What do you think, Tim Powers?
I'll give you a really strong answer, Rob. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Love it. That's why we love that hard-hitting analysis.
I know that hard-hitting stuff. It's great for talk radio, isn't it? The only time, maybe there's three incidents where we can point to. 84 is the most famous one. Neil shaded this up earlier. 2015 expectations were low for Trudeau. He walked and chewed gum, as Corey Tenoik joked, and he did. That probably helped him, but they weren't stellar moments of knockout punches. And the other, 2011. Mr. Layton became more affable to progressive voters who were fed up with the Liberal Party, and that helped him get his 100 seats.
And he hammered Iggy. He hammered Ignatieff when he said, if you don't show up for work, you don't get a promotion. And that kind of,
The rest of the time, though, these aren't big movers.
Big movers.
Are
Okay.
not big movers.
Yeah, not big movers. Okay. All right. Very interesting. We'll see how the next couple of days play out. Thank you so much for
Take
your
care.
insight.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Have
Bye-bye.
A good day, Rob. Good day, Tim.
Yeah, that's Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist, conservative commentator, worked for a time in the Prime Minister's office of Stephen Harper. And Tim Powers, the chair of Summa Strategies, also the managing director at Abacus Data, which, by the way, is out with a new poll today, and it shows a tightening race. Liberals still in the lead, but, I mean, statistically, pretty much a tie. Liberals at 40 and Conservatives at 38. But David Coletto over at Abacus Data says that's down from a 6-point lead just a few days ago, but it still favors the regional numbers are favoring the Liberals. They're tied with the Conservatives in British Columbia. They're up by 7 in Ontario and leading in Atlantic Canada and in Quebec. But if there's something to watch, he says it's the appetite for change that 56% of those polls now say it is definitely time for a change in government, and that most of the people saying that plan to vote for the Conservatives. There's a lot to take in this federal election campaign, and we will continue the conversation during Talkback. Coming up.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And this is the first of a couple of big days in the federal election campaign. French language leaders debate happening later today. The English language leaders debate happening tomorrow. And we've spent the first hour of our program talking about all the ins and outs of leaders debates, who is in and who is out on the Habs hockey game angle. So for the next couple of hours, we want to kick around a few things that are kind of debate focused. They may come up during the next couple of days. We are once again asking 3 election questions. 3 election questions. We did this last week. It went pretty well, so we thought we'd do it again today. We're going to ask you 3 election questions. Give them some thought. Give us a call. Share your opinions. Join the discussion. It's great to have a chance to speak with people from all walks of life from different parts of the country. So let's get going. Today's 3 election questions. Question number 1. What political party in this campaign do you think would be best for national unity, for keeping Canada together, for keeping Canada united? That has come up during the course of this election campaign. Things have been said, things have been written that can't be taken back or deleted. I mean, warnings have been issued, demands have been made. What party do you think is the best party to unite the country? That's question number 1. Here's question number 2. What political party do you think best represents your own personal values? When you think of the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party or the New Democrats or the Greens or the People's Party or any of the parties, what party is it for you that best represents you and your own personal values? What's important to you in your life and your view of the world? What political party is the best representation of that for you? That's question number 2. And here's question number 3. It's kind of a news thing today. What influence do endorsements have on the way you vote? Is that something you take into account? Is that something you consider? I'm endorsing this candidate, wherever that endorsement happens to come from. Maybe it's a celebrity endorsement, someone famous saying, vote for this person, or an endorsement from a union, a trade union, a public sector union, a teachers union, a nurses union, newspaper endorsements, of course. Probably start to see some of those next week, I would suspect. Endorsements from previous politicians. You know, I did this job once before. I think this person would be the best person to do it now. There are all kinds of endorsements. Do you take those into consideration at all when you're thinking about who to vote for, what would you say? What would you say? How would you answer our 3 election questions today? Keeping the country together. Canada's such a big, diverse country. That is a tough job at the best of times. You've heard it during this election campaign. A lot of people in Western Canada are not happy, and many will not be happy at all if the Liberals win the election. That's no secret. A recent poll actually said the desire for separation is strongest now in Saskatchewan if the Liberals win the election, and that the desire to break up the country is as strong today in Alberta as it is in Quebec. Do you think one party would be better than, say, the other parties at keeping the country together? And if so, which party? Personal values. We've all heard these terms in politics. If you follow politics, big C conservative, small c conservative, social conservative, red Tory, blue liberal, business liberal, progressives, socially liberal, fiscally conservative, democratic socialist, all these labels. But when you think about what matters to you, what role you see for government, what political party do you think best aligns with your own personal values and endorsements? Like I said, whether it's a celebrity, a business group, special interest group, union, newspaper. What effect do endorsements have on the way you vote? Do they have any impact at all? Those are our 3 election questions. We welcome all opinions around here from all across the political spectrum and all across the country. And our phone lines are open right now. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Why don't you save that number in your phone and you can put us on speed dial. And if you've never called before, just mention that to David. He's been screening our calls all week. You'll talk to him, and then you'll talk to me and talk to everyone else. We will make your call a priority if you're a first-time caller. We love new voices around here. 1-833-668-2577, the call-in line for Talkback, and you can answer our 3 election questions.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
3 election questions for you today. What political party do you think would be the best party for national unity, for keeping the country together? What political party best represents your own personal values? What party do you think shares your values, your worldview? And what influence do endorsements have on the way you vote? Celebrity endorsements from special interest groups or unions or newspapers, do they have an impact on the way you vote or no impact at all? Curious to know at 1-833-668-2577. A couple of free lines there. The wait won't be too long. Let's go to Mike up first today. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, hi, Mike. What political party do you think would be best for national unity?
The Conservatives, just because of what we've seen the last 10 years of the divisive politics from the Liberals.
Okay.
Yeah, Carney, again, you got to look at his cabinet. Only 3 new ministers. How is that going to change what has happened in the past 10 years? So that's where I'm leaning.
Okay. What party do you think best represents your own personal values, and why would you say that?
Well, there's a test online you can do, answer about 30 questions, and it was right wing. It was near in line with the conservative values. Again, yeah, that's where I've always been on the political spectrum. And I continue to be during this election. So,
and when you say conservative values, like what do you mean? What do you view as, say, conservative values, as opposed to liberal values, or the values of someone who might support the NDP, for example? What is it?
No free handouts. No socialism.
Okay.
Capitalism works.
So free enterprise, free markets.
Exactly. We can't continue to just make every single person and every single group happy. The handouts have to stop. We have to get the budget in control, things of that nature.
Okay, interesting. Endorsements. For example, Neil Young endorsed Mark Carney today. Like that's a big celebrity endorsement. Neil Young endorsed Mark Carney today. And, Mike Myers endorsed Mark Carney. Some unions have backed the Conservatives. Some unions have backed the New Democrats. Some unions have backed the Liberals. But do endorsements impact the way you think about voting?
Not me personally. My mind is made up. But my question is, has anybody in Canada that lives in Canada endorsed Mark Carney yet? Because Mike Myers, Neil Young, they might be, maybe born in Canada, but they haven't lived here for 20, 30, 40 years. So,
right.
Again, has anybody in Canada of significant nature actually endorsed Mark Carney yet? Because I know there's a few groups, but, Pierre is getting most of these union endorsements that we haven't seen before. So that's exciting.
Trade unions, trade unions.
Yeah.
Not public sector unions like that.
No. Right. But will that help? Will that sway voters? I don't know. Personally, for me, no. But again, it might help with those voters on the fence.
Okay, 183. Thank you, Mike. 1-833-668-2577. 3 election questions for you today. Come and join the discussion. Love to hear from you. Danvir is up next in Calgary today. Hi, Danvir. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking the
good
call.
To hear from you. What party do you think would be best for national unity?
Hey, before I start answering questions, I just want to put one thing out. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, I just want to say that this election was a common man's election before the start of the tariffs embargo. And now the common man has no strings to pull anymore. Okay, that's all I want to say. On the question,
and now you've said it. So on the national unity, I mean, there's been stuff written about national unity, threats to national unity, that this could be the last election for a united Canada. I mean, that would be tragic, in my opinion. What party would be best for keeping the country together?
I would say, no party would want the Canada to break down, but, Conservatives would score higher than any other.
Okay, and why do you think that?
So in their policies, mostly any party, even in their rule, even they've focused on the eastern provinces, but still, they do not use partisan ways, regional partisan. So that's
right.
What keep the country together. So as long as there is no regional partisan, right?
Is there a political party that you think best represents your own personal values? What's important to you? How what you think of the world and how things should operate? And if so, what party is that?
So I was looking at it so on that for financial prudence, the Conservatives would score higher any day. But for equality and safeguarding rights, I would say NDP. So there would be an overlap to both parties.
Okay.
The Liberals, I think, is just a lobby party. So their agenda could keep changing with whoever is lobbying.
I see. Okay. You think the Liberals kind of twist in the wind? They kind of twist in the wind. What way is the wind blowing? Kind of thing. Okay, that's interesting.
They have been deceptive all along, and then their agenda is to increase the spectrum of vote pockets. So sometimes even with conflicting ideas, so they'll say something in one region, something else in the other. And
right.
There's a national
or something
party,
to one block of voters and something to a different block of voters, whatever the case might be. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Endorsements. Well, next week there'll probably be a flood of newspaper endorsements. The Calgary Herald is going to support, this party, or, the Globe and Mail might support this party in the election, the Toronto Star, whatever. Celebrities have come out to endorse candidates. Does that have any impact on how you vote and how you think about voting?
Not generally, unless they have
not generally. Okay.
A practical experience they could share that this guy, this is his quality, right, or his or her quality that stands out. Yeah.
But generally speaking, not much of an impact.
No, I would rather vote on my own.
Yeah, vote on your own. You're kind of a free-thinking guy, Danvir. I know that about you from all your calls, and thank you for calling today. And just like that, we're off and running on Talkback. Wednesday edition with a debate just hours away in Montreal, and the French language, 6 p.m. Eastern. We are asking questions related to the election campaign. 3 election questions. Come and answer them. And join the discussion on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
3 election questions for you today. What political party do you think would be best for national unity? What political party best represents your own personal values? And what influence do endorsements have on the way that you vote? Norm is in Lethbridge today. Hello, Norm.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
I'm good, Norm. Have you called before, Norm, from Lethbridge?
I haven't.
No, you haven't. You're a first-time caller. Well, isn't that great?
Yeah.
What party do you think would be best for keeping the country united?
Well, I'm going to go with the Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre. I find
Why do you say that?
Well, he's hitting all of the. He's hitting on everything that everybody's feeling, like all of the hard times, all of the crime. He's just covering all of those aspects: taxes, new jobs. Opening up construction. I'm a site supervisor in construction, and I can see it takes forever to get permits rolling and this and that. But anyways, nevertheless, there's too many environmental laws.
Cutting down on red tape, getting projects moving, shovels in the ground, this kind of stuff. So if that's the case, I'm guessing you think the Conservatives probably best represent your own personal values. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, they do. They do.
And what values would you say those are?
Well, I find that the Conservatives, they unify, like a lot of the people that undecided and want to vote Liberal, this and that. They're using concepts like the dentist program, the $10 daycare, the kids' breakfast funding, and all this and that. Everybody, Pierre's voting against it. He's not voting against it. He's just voting against it because he doesn't like the setup the way it's set up. Like the funding of it, the arrangements of it, the background lobbying of it, and where's the money all going? They're not going to cancel these projects. It's just, you know what I mean? They want to put a better seal on it than what the Liberals are doing, right?
But this would be, this would be viewed as it's an expansion of government, and it's an expansion of what you would call the social safety net. Is that something personally that you're against, or?
No, I'm for these programs. You know what I mean? It's just the idea.
I'm just asking.
They need to be set up. They need to be set up properly.
Need to be set up properly.
How many daycares are closing and shutting because the $10 daycare system is not working? You know what I mean?
True enough.
Over here now, I don't know how it is in all the other provinces, but here in Alberta,
similar problems. Similar problems.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, a celebrity has endorsed a candidate, or a newspaper has endorsed a candidate, or some special interest group, I mean, does that sway how you vote? You take that into account?
Not at all, because
not at all.
Everyone, I feel that everyone has their own reasons, and they have the right to pick and choose whoever they want as well, right? Your decision to who you want to vote for is your business, and mine is mine, and theirs is theirs, right? It doesn't influence me. It's just if that's what they think, then that's what they think, right? But it doesn't disallow me to think what I think, So everybody has a right to their own set of mind. And it's also like just sending money overseas to different countries. I understand and I get it that Canada has to help other countries that's in distress. I mean, but it doesn't have to be 50% of our GDP neither, right? Sometimes
it's not that much money. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's about, I think it's about $8.5-9 billion a year, and some people are questioning that. And Mr. Poilievre says that is one thing that he will take the knife to if he wins the election. Of course, one step at a time.
The other thing is,
all right, Norm. Norm, I really appreciate your call today and being a first-time caller to Talkback. Hope you'll call again sometime, but we will have to end our conversation there for now, because the latest breaking news is coming up next, and then we'll be right back to your phone calls here on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
3 election questions for you today. What political party do you think would be best for national unity? What political party best represents your own personal values? And what influence do endorsements have on the way you vote, if they have any influence at all? 1-833-668-2577. As we say hello to Bernie in Mississauga today. Thanks for listening again, Bernie, and calling today. Good to hear from you today.
It's good program, good topics. As far as national unity, I think the best party that could unite the country across the country would be the NDP. The reason why I say that, I think because in the Eastern Canada, the Liberals have built up such a patronage system that they continually govern. And then you go out west and you look at Saskatchewan and Alberta, the Conservatives built up a patronage system that can't be cracked. So I think that these two isms keep the country in a festering position where we're not settled down as being united as one country.
Okay, fair enough. Now, look, you've long called me, and you've expressed your support for the New Democrats over the years, Bernie. And you know, it's good to get the view from the left, and I know you're a longtime supporter of the New Democrats. And I want to know why you think that party best represents your own personal values. What is it there?
It comes from my father. My father was a coal miner, and he raised 17 kids. And he fought in the union all his life for conditions to improve the conditions of the ordinary person. And people that he was attracted to, like he attracted to Tommy Douglas. And Tommy Douglas was selected as the greatest Canadian politician that ever lived a few years ago. So that's where I get my values from, and I take it from them because a man like Tommy Douglas stepped off the pulpit to enter the political scene. And the changes they brought forth in this country were extraordinary. And he did that without ever achieving political power as far as federal government concerned in this country. And as far as endorsements, Rob, there's only one thing I got that I said about the endorsements. I'm very irked when I see the trade union movement endorsing either the Liberal or the Conservatives, because I think that when you go back through history and look at the trade union movement, where it started from ordinary people, and ordinary people that improved the lot of the general public. And I think that the specialized craft unions and everything have hurt the trade union movement for what it was really meant to do.
Okay, Bernie, passionate as always. Thank you. Yeah, good to get a view from the left side today as well. Let's go to Mike in Calgary. Hi, Mike. You're on the air, Mike.
Hi. I think I think it's hard to find a party that's going to unite Canada because I think the Liberals have, the Liberals and the NDP have sort of messed with a lot of the country for the last 10 years and put us in where we're at. And I think the Conservatives have a real hard time with Quebec. I mean, when the trade minister for the Liberals got on and said, yes, we want interprovincial trading, Vashi Capello said, okay, so does that mean if Nova Scotia wants Alberta oil, they can get it without having to send a ship all the way down to the Panama Canal? And he wouldn't answer the question.
Right. So your answer would be perhaps none of them then.
There's going to be a lot of separation feelings no matter who wins. I mean, they said today Saskatchewan and Alberta have never been so close to separation if the Liberals win. And that's sad because I love Canada and I want to be proud of Canada again, but we have to work together. If you've ever had a sibling, or an older brother that got the brand new car and you always got the hand-me-down and, got to stay out late and you always had to be home, that's a lot of the way that Alberta feels when it comes to Quebec. It feels like, they can choose their own rules because they tried to separate at one point in time and they play by an entire different set of rules. And I know you're in Quebec, so I apologize.
That's
but
okay.
They play by an entire different set of rules than the rest of Canada and the rest of the provinces play by. And that part is unfair.
Yeah, I just happen to live here. I'm not 90 minutes away from the Ontario border. I would point out where I lived for decades, and I grew up in Atlantic Canada, of course, as you know. But okay, let's move along here. So on your own personal values, what party maybe best represents your own personal values? And what are they?
I've spent the last 3 weeks fighting with the baby boomers, even in my family, because they seem to feel like Carney's the be-all, end-all after 10 years. And I believe that Pierre's right. I don't believe in everything that he's doing, but I believe that he's right for a majority of the values that I stand behind. And I actually talked to a couple people yesterday that actually told me they weren't going to vote. And that made me so sad and actually so sick to my stomach. And last time we chatted, I said, I think there will be more people that vote in this election that have ever voted in the history of elections. But there's a lot of people that aren't going to vote just because there's nobody that they feel that they can stand behind. And that's really sad.
Okay. On endorsements, do they impact you at all, sway you, influence you at all? Endorsements?
There's a realtor in Calgary that uses endorsements, and he's still someone that no one likes. And, he uses the endorsements to try and get clients and clientele. But I think a lot of the endorsements are paid. And so because they're paid, when I saw Mike Myers on there, I don't think Mike Myers was doing it because he really wants to endorse Carney, but he was.
Well, what about Neil Young? What about Neil Young? Neil Young endorsed Mark Carney today, So.
Yeah, and Neil Young would endorse Mark Carney because, all of his big buses were sitting here, diesel buses were sitting here running outside Calgary while he was doing a 3-hour concert. He's talking about how he hates the oil sands and pollution. So it was
I remember that. Yeah. I was on the air the next day after he made those remarks about Fort McMurray and everything else, and how it smelled so toxic, and you could smell. I remember you say you could smell the sulfur in the air. He kind of lost me. I really liked the guy before he said that.
With Carney saying, we should increase taxes on polluters like airlines, and then he's flying around on a private jet everywhere. Even before he was prime minister, he was flying around on a private jet, but he wants to make stuff more expensive for a lot of us. I think it's it's going to be divisional for a lot of our elder baby boomers and a lot of the younger generation right now. And I'm having discussions with my aunt and uncle and people on a daily basis about it. And a lot of it has to do, unfortunately, with the media and just different stories. I had friends that were up at Pierre's rally. I said that they had to walk 2.5 kilometers to get to the building.
Yeah.
And then
I don't want to get into rallies again, and we're a little tight on time. So I'm going to wrap things up there for today, Mike. Great call as always. Obviously, very engaged in everything that's going on. Loving the conversation so far. Why don't you join us at 1-833-668-2577 on Talkback? Re-election questions with Neil from Nova Scotia today. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Neil, where are you calling from in Nova Scotia, Neil?
Well, first of all, I suspect a little background would be necessary if we're going to form an opinion on something. I grew up in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia. I lived in Valley for 43 years, taught school, and I'm now chasing grandkids in Halifax.
Okay.
So that gives you a little bit about who I am.
Sure thing.
First of all, would you fire your questions in order, if you don't mind?
What is there a political party that you think would be better than the other parties on national unity, keeping the country together?
Absolutely. I believe at this stage it would have to be the Liberal Party, even though I had leanings towards conservatives during the time that Pierre was, I shouldn't say Pierre, but Justin was running the country. And I grew up, as I said, in Cape Breton, and I would have leanings towards the NDP. But the reason I say the Liberals is simply because I made up my mind on the day that Danielle Smith came out and said that she would talk about separation if the Conservatives did not win the election. To me, that is influence on election voting, and I don't think that's good for unity.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
What political party do you think best represents your own personal values?
Okay. I think that would have to be, again, the Liberal Party. And that wasn't always the case. But the reason I say that is that right now we need somebody that is strong economically. We do have the Trump battle in front of us. And I do believe that that's the major issue in this campaign, and I do not believe that a person that was a politician for all of their life has the ability to handle the Trumpian situation.
Okay. endorsements, newspaper endorsements, union endorsements, celebrity endorsements. Do these have any influence on the way you vote, sir?
I would hope not that they don't influence me, but I do know that advertisement, of course, is a big thing in the world today, and obviously there is an influence that would take place on a number of people, and possibly myself, even though I believe it would be an unconscious bias. But if I hear probably the right person, I think I would be influenced, as would anybody else.
All right. Very interesting. Very thoughtful. Neil, thank you for calling from Halifax today. Very nice to hear from you and speak with you today. From Neil in Halifax to Paul in Cambridge, Ontario today. Hi, Paul.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Yeah,
today?
Paul. Good to hear from you. On national unity, what party would be best for trying to keep the country together?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed is throughout the Liberal reign, the Liberals have attempted to divide Canadians into tiny little groups, whether it's East versus West, English versus French, the religion, ethnicity, where you're from. The Liberals have to divide everybody up and put a label on them. We're no longer people. We are some subset of a Liberal plan to divide Canada. And once they're divided, then the Liberals use that to pit one group against the other, so that you'd never really notice what the Liberals were doing to screw us all.
Okay.
So I believe that the Conservative Party would bring people back together.
Together. Okay.
Yeah, that's
all right. I got you. Let's move along because we're a little tight on time. We only have like a minute and a half here.
Yep.
When you think about your own personal values, Paul and Cambridge, this is what I believe. What party best represents that for you?
The Conservative Party, because of the freedom. I work hard. I had a good life, with as little government interference as I could arrange or bear by. But
right. Okay.
Endure. The Liberals are going to try and screw you one way or another.
Okay. Endorsements, do they have any impact on you?
Unfortunately, I have this really bad habit, and that is thinking for myself instead of listening to the likes. If you want to take endorsements, Trump is endorsing Carney. And, if you consider that a good endorsement, I don't know where your mind is.
Okay. All right, Paul. Thank you. Glad we could go through those with you as well. 1-833-668-2577. Mike is up next in Dartmouth. Hello, Mike.
Rob, can you put me on hold and take me next? I'm just at a drive-through window here.
What is it with people that go into drive-through windows? Okay, Mike, you'll have to wait until after the news. Unfortunately, you're the only caller on the line right now. But look, when it comes to national unity, I mean, that's question number one, national unity. The sad reality is, as I mentioned, it's no longer just a Quebec thing, which will be one of the lasting legacies of Justin Trudeau's time as prime minister. He just didn't do a very good job of keeping the country together. Darn near tore it apart. I mean, when you think of where things stood when Stephen Harper was the prime minister, this was barely an issue. And now we hear all this talk, Western separation. That wasn't much of a thing compared to what it is now. That's why we're asking this question. Let's go to Jerry is in Alberta. Hi, Jerry.
Hello.
Hi, Jerry. Good to hear from you today, Jerry.
Yes. Okay.
On national unity, Jerry, is there one party that you think would do a better job at trying to keep the country together right now?
Well, the only party we got to vote for something like that would be the Conservatives at this time. But I think that what you're going to see down the road is an independent party where every member is independent, and then you'll get service for their constituency.
Okay.
When my wife was president of the Conservative Party, she pushed for that a lot because she thought it was so good. Because we thought the Conservatives were headed that way.
Okay, now let me ask you: when you think about your own personal values, is there a political party that you think best represents? I'm Jerry, and this is what I believe. Is there a party out there that does that for you?
Conservative, somewhat.
Conservative, somewhat. Okay.
Yeah, like you can't go to the Liberal because all parties got a certain amount of corruption in them, but the Liberals are the worst. So no, I couldn't vote for.
All right.
I couldn't vote for anything else unless it was independent, other than conservative.
Independent. Okay. You've got an independent streak to you. That's cool, yeah. Jerry. Endorsements. When you hear a newspaper or a celebrity is endorsing a politician, does that make you think, well, maybe I should vote for that person too, or do you pay that? No, never mind.
No, it's going back to the experience that I have. Anybody that's giving you an endorsement for something, they all want something back.
Okay.
So no.
Okay.
So endorsements to me is out.
Quid pro quo, you think? Okay.
I just wouldn't listen to it.
All right. Very interesting. Hey, Jerry, thanks for the call. Yeah. Great to hear from you today. I don't think you've ever called before, but I'm glad we could fit you in just before the news, which is coming up next on a big day in federal politics with the first of 2 leaders' debates. Again, starting in about 4 hours from now. That's an early debate. Around dinner time in the Eastern time zone, just after dinner in Atlantic, Canada, and during rush hour in the West. We'll be having the first of 2 leaders' debates. Full hour ahead of Talkback right after the news, and we'll get right back to asking 3 election questions here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
3 election questions we have been asking about national unity and what political party would be best for keeping the country together. What political party best represents your own personal values and beliefs? And what influence do endorsements, newspaper endorsements, celebrity endorsements during elections, what influence, if any, do they have on the way you vote? Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. Let's find out if Mike in Dartmouth has managed to make it through the drive-thru. Hello, Mike. You're like the third person to do that to me, Mike. That's okay. That's okay. On national unity, Mike, is there a political party that you think would be best for national unity?
I honestly don't think there is, Rob.
You don't think there is? Fair enough. Okay. Why do you say that?
And well, I say that because you know what? Until we stop catering to certain groups, and that's creating a division amongst us. One person is entitled to this, the other person can't apply, or all that stuff going on. I think until we completely stop that, it puts wedges between groups, and that's kind of how I feel about that.
Okay, so when you think about your own personal values, your own personal beliefs, is there a party that more aligns with your views than, say, some of the other parties? Okay.
I lean towards the Conservatives.
Okay. Okay.
But as we've discussed before, Rob, and my financial burden and what I'm doing.
Yeah. Sure
as a matter of fact, that's what I'm doing right now. I was going through the scale house in the truck, my under the table job. But anyway, the only thing that bothers me is that I lean towards, I like the whole common sense thing, and I think that's a big part of what I see in the Conservative Party is that. What we've watched for 10 years with the Liberals, I mean, it just had no common sense to it at all. I mean, everybody was shaking their head going, this is just foolish, all the stuff we're deleting out because it doesn't go along with some liberal narrative or... Anyway, that's kind of how I lean that way is that, the only problem for me is that none of them right now are talking about any assistance to the seniors, so that kind of just deletes me right out of all the parties.
You'd like to hear more about that. Fair enough. When you hear an endorsement or you see an endorsement in the newspaper or a celebrity endorses a politician, I mean, what does that influence you at all? Or
I watched that silly one with Mike Myers. No, I think people that get involved in that, especially celebrities and that, I just don't think they're doing themselves any favors. I mean, if you go towards one party, no matter if it's stateside here or wherever. You could tend to lose, like I said, as far as celebrities, you could tend to lose support from the people that don't, support your view on that. So I think you're better off just to stay out of it altogether. But no, it doesn't influence me in any way.
Okay, Mike, thank you for your call. I'm glad we could get you on to start hour number 2 here of Talkback. So from a drive-through in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, to somewhere in southern Alberta, we have Linda on the line. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Not too bad, yourself.
I'm good.
That's good.
Do you think there's a party that would be best for national unity at this point in time, and which party would that be?
Well, I just feel that definitely it wouldn't be the Liberals or the NDP, so I guess it's Conservative.
Just by default. Now, why do you say it wouldn't be the Liberals or the NDP then?
Well, I've lived in Alberta all my life, and we went through Senior Trudeau's finger salute and his FU salutations, so no. And the NDP, I just think they're just too busy spending money to placate certain groups. So
I see. Okay. Okay. As for your own personal values, is there a political party that best represents your own personal values?
Again, by default, it's going to have to be Conservative. As far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been really good, true, honorable politicians since way back in the day. When we had, now I've lost his name, the one that Trudeau beat out, Senior beat out.
Stephen Harper.
No, way before that.
That Trudeau Senior beat Bob Stanfield. You mean?
No. He was in there for like 6 months, and because he had Joe Clark.
Joe Clark. Okay, Joe Clark. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
When he told us,
name that defeated politician. Yeah, sure.
You're just going to have to bite the bullet, and we're going to increase it by this much, right? And Trudeau said, "Oh no, we're not going to do that," and he defeats them, and then he increases it slowly over term by way more. So yeah.
Okay.
No, trust is not there for me as far as politicians go, but.
Right. Okay. So if the Conservatives are kind of coming at a head, it's only like they're the best horse in the glue factory or something.
Right.
Like that.
They're the best of the worst, right?
Okay. I've got you there. Fair assessment. Okay. So where are you on endorsements? Do they have an impact on the way you vote at all? Or
no, absolutely not. And I would more frown on it than
really? Why?
Accept it. Yeah, because you vote because of your own values, your own principles, not because a celebrity that probably is a celebrity. They're not in need of want of anything, right?
Yes.
So it's not like you felt it. You know what it's like. You've endured what we're going through as
okay. Like, what does Neil Young know about your problems, Linda?
Yeah, right. And how have you ever done without, so.
Yes, okay. Look, thank you for your call today.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I really appreciate the honesty that it's the Conservatives by default, but I would say Linda's endorsement was not necessarily a ringing endorsement of the Conservatives. It's kind of the best of a bad lot. That would be her assessment. 1-833-668-2577. Nick is in Kitchener today. Hello, Nick.
Rob, how are you?
I'm good, Nick. Good. All the better for hearing from you, my friend. So,
thank you very much, sir.
So on national unity, do you think there's one party that would be better at uniting the country than, say, the other parties?
Yeah, I do. I mean, a few callers ago, you had Paul on, and I can't agree with him more. I mean, the Liberals have had the mandate to run this country for the last 9 years. And today we are more divided than any other time, at least in my 45 years of being on this earth. And so how anyone could look at that situation and go, yeah, you know what, let's get the Liberals back in because they're going to bring us together with 80% of the same cabinet as they've had previously. I just can't wrap my head around that, Rob.
Okay. When you think about, I'm Nick, I'm from Kitchener, these are my beliefs, these are my values, do you see a political party that best represents those?
Yeah, I do. I mean, definitely the Conservative Party. I mean, I just look at it relatively basic. And, when I look at this, the core values and beliefs of me as a Canadian, I really do believe the Conservatives have a platform that rings true for me. I mean, I struggle with the argument of, a Mark Carney in the Liberal Party who is the definition of a global elitist versus Pierre Poilievre with a beautiful family. Rings true as a Canadian to me. I mean, I can't understand how anyone could look at a guy like Mark Carney who has, 3 citizenships, hasn't even lived in Canada for a number of years. How do you look at that guy who is that wealthy and everything else and look at him and go, yeah, he's going to relate to me as the average Canadian?
Okay.
I mean, I think it's outrageous.
Okay. Endorsements, do they influence your vote at all?
No, and I don't. It doesn't. I think it's silly in my opinion, and I really do believe that anyone that listens to any type of endorsement from anyone else and allows it to sway your opinion, I would argue that that's pretty. You're probably lacking a little bit of self-esteem if that's how you're going to. If you're going to let somebody sway your opinion just based on, somebody because they're a good hockey player or baseball player or act in movies. I think that's pretty silly in my opinion.
All right.
So no.
Very good. Nick, thank you for your call. Let's go to Southwestern Ontario. Scott has called. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Rob. How are you today?
I'm good. Scott, is there a political party you think would be best for national unity?
Rob, I've got 2 thoughts on it. I've got 2 thoughts. I think for Canadian unity, maybe the Conservative, as a Liberal, now I'm a Liberal from Southwestern Ontario.
Yes, I recall.
Maybe for Canadian unity, the Conservatives are better because the rest of the Liberals and NDP voters don't take their ball and run home if they don't get their own way. So I'm kind of thinking, because that's what I'm hearing, basically, even why the question is being asked. I don't think this question was being asked when Stephen Harper had 9-year run. People are going to leave the country if Stephen Harper wins again. Sounds to me like Conservatives, if we don't get our way, well, we're going to take our ball and we're going to run home. So a little bit of that. The other thought is that, if you look at the popular vote between the Liberals and the NDP, that's over 50% of the population versus 37% for the Conservatives, like in the last election. So, I mean, the majority of the people in Canada, the party center and center left is split between Liberals and NDP in this country, but the majority of Canadians are centrists. Brian Mulroney said this: we're centrists. Who's ever close to the center, is how we govern in Canada. It's how we've always governed. You can't go too far left. You can't go too far right. So, but those are my thoughts on Canada's unity, Rob.
Okay, what about your own personal values? I mean, you say you're a Liberal,
values,
you're going to vote for the Liberals. So what is it about the Liberals that you would say that's the party that is the best representation of what I believe? Why is that the case?
Because I think that it's a big tent. It's inclusive, right? I think it's inclusive, and that's the way I was brought up. That's the way my parents raised me, and so to be all inclusive, I grew up around people with different nationalities and different ethnicities, and so all inclusiveness. And I've always felt that the Liberal Party is the party of all inclusiveness. No matter where you're from or what your beliefs are or what your sexual preference is. And all inclusive. Gotcha. And I don't get that from the Conservatives. Although
don't get that.
Centrist, progressive Conservatives, I listen to progressive conservatism, but when the Conservative Party starts going a little bit too far to the right and groups are not inclusive in the Conservative Party, and they start, this is what's gone on in the, Trumpism in the United States. I mean, closing off people and, you're not allowed to speak and you're not allowed to say things. And I mean, it's not a road that as a Canadian that I would go down.
We only have about 30 seconds left. So on endorsements, do they influence the way you vote, an endorsement?
No, I thought the commercial. I thought the commercial with Mike Myers was a little over the top. No, not at all. I mean, they could be fun, I guess, but really, I don't know. Is it good that Matt Gaetz is supporting Pierre Poilievre? I don't think that's a good one.
I don't know. I didn't see that. Matt Gaetz is supporting Pierre Poilievre. I don't know.
so I don't know. They don't affect me, and I don't.
They don't affect you. Okay, I think you're sneaking that in there. I haven't seen anything about Matt Gaetz. I don't think Matt Gaetz could find. I don't think Matt Gaetz could find Canada on a map. All right.
I think he
Thank
tweeted it.
you.
I think he tweeted it.
Oh, I don't know. All right. Okay.
Have a
We'll
great
get David
day.
to fact check that. I got to run. Thank you, though, Scott. In southwestern Ontario, we'll go back to Alberta, but we'll have to wait right after this. Let's go to Rand in Alberta up next on Talkback to do 3 election questions. Hi, Rand. Are you with me?
Rob.
Hi.
Yeah.
What political party do you think would be best for national unity?
It's kind of in a quagmire, Rob, because people's opinion on unity is dependent on what they hear on the news and what they see on what they read in the paper and what they see on TV. And there's been quite an unequal slant in Alberta and Saskatchewan on separatism.
Okay.
And the separate, what I think is a small group in Alberta, are getting far more coverage than the other side of the coin. And my opinion is at least 3/4 of Alberta, this is just an opinion, do not want to separate.
Well, that's even what the polling would say.
The media
Yeah.
is giving all the attention to the separatist point of view.
Okay. That's interesting. When you think about your own personal values, Rand, and what you believe, what you would say you stand for, do you see a party that, say, better represents those values than, say, some of the other parties?
I don't know how Poilievre will react to health care and taking care of senior citizens. But in the past, even though I totally reject keeping Trudeau's cabinet with Carney, in the past the Liberals have taken care of seniors and health care, and I want that to continue.
Okay.
So regardless, my opinion is that I prefer the party that takes care of that. And so far it's been Liberals, other than their cabinet, which Carney should have purged.
Okay. Well, he hasn't done that yet. Maybe he'll hit a reset button if he wins the election. When you hear a union or you read a newspaper is endorsing a politician or a celebrity endorses a politician, does that have any influence on you?
No, not at all, Rob. And when I see it in the States with Trump endorsing candidates and threatening them, saying if you don't endorse this candidate, they'll be primaried, it's almost turning into a joke down there. But up here, I have no change of opinion at all if a celebrity or some other person endorses a candidate.
Right. So if one of the one of the daily newspapers in Alberta, the Herald or whatever, endorses says we endorse the Conservatives or whatever, that wouldn't really have an impact on you in the editorial pages of the paper.
No, it certainly wouldn't have any opinion.
Yeah, this used to have a lot of influence, but maybe not so much anymore. I don't know how much people are really paying attention to that kind of stuff anymore. Very interesting. Thank you, Rand. Good to hear from you. Look, we'll have to stop here because we're really tight on time. Only about a minute left before the latest breaking news. So I want to give you lots of time to outline your positions here as we go through 3 election questions on Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Where once again we have been asking 3 election questions. Let's go through them with Andrew. Up next is in Calgary. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Are you there, Andrew?
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi, Andrew. Yeah, there we go, Andrew. Yeah, good to hear from you. What party's best for national unity, do you think?
At this point, there is no party except the Conservatives. The Liberals have divided and conquered for 10 years.
Okay. So when you think about your own personal values, what party best represents what you believe in and what you stand for?
Conservatives. It's a default. I have no other party to go to. If you speak out against the Liberals, you're racist, sexist, homophobe, everything else. You can't speak your mind. That's the problem. We don't have freedom of speech in Canada anymore.
Okay. So what is it about the Conservatives say, if you don't like the Liberals, why not the New Democrats or the People's Party or the Greens or
not.
whatever?
Because for the last years, Jagmeet has been in power. All he does is talk, and by the time he's done, you don't really understand where he started and where he finished.
Okay, so you don't. You think he's too wishy-washy.
By the time he was done, you were like, "What did he say?"
Right. Okay. And on endorsements, I mean, when a union endorses a politician or a celebrity or a newspaper, does that have any impact on you? Do you take that into consideration?
Absolutely not. Look at the American elections. Everybody endorsed Kamala, and people. I think it's more of a turnaway than.
More of a turnaway. Okay.
But can I say one thing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
The Liberals or the NDP would get my vote, and I absolutely hate that nobody ever talks about this. If the Liberals came out tonight and said, we're going to build 3 refineries or 1 refinery in Alberta within 5 years, they would get my, but nobody talks. And can you explain to me why nobody wants to build refineries in Canada?
Well, but maybe that tide is turning. For the longest time, what company would want to try and even build a refinery?
An Albertan company.
Well, can you imagine how long that would take? How many years would that take?
Why do we have to rely on America, who screws us at every possible
Okay. I don't want to get too off the topic, but you can imagine the environmental process that you would have to go through in order to build a new refinery, right?
Just do it.
Well, you could say just do it.
Just do it.
Look at the energy. Look at the Energy East pipeline. They tried to do that for 6 years, spent $1 billion, and walked away from it.
We're losing money. We're losing money.
All right. Okay, Andrew. All right. Goodbye. Let's try to keep the focus here. Robert, up next. Hello, Robert.
Good day, Rob.
Yeah. Hi, Robert.
How are you doing?
Oh, it's herding cats sometimes, but let's get to this here. National unity. I mean, is one party better than the other on that big thing called keeping the country together? National unity?
Yeah, no kidding. Let's bring it together. The Conservatives, for sure.
Okay.
Less government involvement in people's lives. I mean, to get a sense of more freedom. What we've had is our NDP Liberal coalition going on that we've all witnessed. And, we could have had this election how many months ago now, Rob? And they haven't been sitting, so nothing's been happening. So to bring all of the country together, I certainly believe the Conservatives can do it.
Okay. And when you think about your own personal values, your own personal beliefs, what you stand for, what is a party that best represents that for you, and why? Like, what are your values that are aligned with that party's values, do you think?
Well, it has to be the Conservatives because I lean more to being a capitalist, and I like free enterprise and business, and the opportunity that I can see Canada moving forward in these big projects. I mean, again, we talked about this before. The U.S. gets 9 LNG plants. Canada gets 1. I mean, let's get our country and get the engine moving of Canada. And let's do it and have some excitement. We've been suppressed and pushed down and thumbs down, and we're paying these people. We're paying them with our tax dollars, and they're putting us more into debt, and they're doing nothing. Who gets to do a job for 10 years and gets paid and does nothing? Like, no one in the working force does that, right?
What about endorsements? Celebrities or newspapers or union endorsements, do they impact you at all? Make you think about how you might vote? No,
not at all. No, I mean, I think back to the oil sands there when they were flying them all in. Gene Fonda showed up, I think. When Neil Young was bad-mouthing Alberta and Fort Mac, that was a real turnoff, for me.
Yeah, it was a turnoff for me, too. Yeah, you kind of lost me there.
I didn't like that.
I didn't like that either. I mean, I was a big Neil Young fan. Really, really. Like, Harvest. Oh, man. Yeah, but that was...
Yeah.
I kind of broke up with Neil after that. I have to be honest with you.
So did I. Hey,
yeah,
Rob,
okay.
Can I say one
last thing? One last thing. Make it quick. Okay.
Okay. I would just want Canadians to think about this, okay?
Okay.
For 10 years, you've been paying people. They've been running us into debt. We haven't been getting any progress. The same team is sitting in the background. They're being all quiet. Carney's the face. He was the orchestrator of all this. He was the puppeteer. He was in the background.
Okay.
And that's I want Canadians to
I got you. You got your rant out there, Robert. Okay. All right. Now we've got to move along here. We'll stop, take some more of your calls, ask 3 more election questions as we move along on Talkback on News Radio. Karen has called from Calgary. Hello, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in there today, Karen. What political party do you think would be best for national unity?
I think the Conservative Party, obviously.
Okay. Why is that?
I'm 100% conservative. Well, you work hard, you get ahead. I've my whole life, I'm 60 years old. I've been on EI once.
Right.
Which means I don't take handouts. So
Okay.
I don't agree with, absolutely people get in trouble and they need a hand up, but not everybody.
Okay. That more goes to question number 2 in your own personal values, which you say you're 100% conservative. So what is it about your personal values that you would say aligns with the Conservative Party?
Well, working hard.
Okay.
Logical thinking, like thinking about how much you can afford, budgeting.
Okay. So fiscal fiscal responsibility.
Values.
Yeah. Sure.
Kids how to garden and stuff. Can I just interject with something? If Canadians are wondering why Alberta wants to separate, because between Lethbridge and Calgary, which is a 2-hour trip by car, there's no voting stations. So people have to drive hours to cast a vote.
Wow.
Can you tell rigged? And no, I don't agree with Neil Young. I'm 1,000% with you. He lost my vote when he did that with Fort Mac.
Right. But, that's one endorsement. I mean, there have been lots of endorsements, made. Poilievre is getting union endorsements from trade unions. Carney's had a few. The public service unions are endorsing, for the most part, the New Democrats. Carney's got some celebrity endorsements, but do they matter, in your opinion?
No. And you wonder why the public unions are supporting the ND freeloaders? Because they want jobs. That's what I call the NDP, ND freeloaders, because they want to keep their jobs.
Okay. Well, I think the NDP would say, well, it's about standing up for public services that are valued by Canadians, whether it's, public education or the healthcare system or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, overpopulated. There's way more people in the system that need to be in. Look at the IRS. There's 13,000 in Canada.
Yeah,
and way less in the
CRA.
US.
Yeah, CRA has 57,000. God bless them. We love every single one of you guys at the Canada Revenue Agency. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Because
don't we, Karen? Yes, we do. Yes, we do, Karen. Yes, we do. They might. You never know. They might be listening. Hello. Okay. All right. Gonna run.
Have a good Easter, Rob.
You too. Bye. You too. Gary in Calgary. Hello, Gary.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi, Gary. Good to hear from you. Is there a party that you think would be best for national unity?
Oh, Conservatives all the way.
Why, Gary? Why?
Well, because I see the Liberals taking all the wealth from this country and handing it all over the world, and coming up with the lamest of excuses. I see them, now there's this letter came out from 2 law enforcement talking they want these MPs charged because the MPs knew about all this stuff, as did Carney, as did Trudeau, and never did squat about it. And, so they welcomed it, all this Chinese interference, eh? And, it's endless. I mean, enough already.
Okay.
I mean, this is, I think a dog could do a better job, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
A dog wouldn't pilfer all our industries and sell them off and leave us with nothing. We're going to go back 150 years if Kearney gets in.
Okay. But on national unity, I mean, it's, for example, there was a poll out, and Preston Manning was writing about this, that if the Liberals win, and they could get in, I mean, all the polls are saying they might win a majority government in less than 2 weeks from now. I mean, are you someone who would seriously consider separation? Because it's at about 30% in the West right now.
Well, I kind of thought about that. Because I was looking at the way Trudeau was doing things, and I'm going, this is just crazy. This is beyond crazy. I mean, all the stuff is, slapping everybody in the face every time this corruption comes up, and they just keep going. Nothing happens to them, eh? So that just tells you how deep the corruption's going. So you get into that, and then you go, well, where else can you live? I mean, what do you go hide in the bush somewhere and turn the politics off, or do you try to find a better life in another country? I don't know.
Okay, now with your own personal values, Gary, just because we're a little tight on time, I want to ask you, like, with your own personal values and how you, like, what you believe in, what is the party? It sounds like it's going to be the Conservative Party, but I'm curious as to, like, what values do you have that you would say align better with that party as opposed to the others?
Well, being smart with the money, and you don't take other people's money and just blow it because it's other people's money, and then just and that's one thing. But then the corruption, I mean, it's on and on and on. And you look back, he learned from his dad, didn't he? His dad was the last guy to push the debt and you never meet a bill and everything else. Thank God there were some Liberals that actually did do that. But I mean, it's
but fiscal prudence would be a big thing for you. Very good, very good. Okay, now endorsements sorry, Gary, just tight on time, and I want to fit everybody on endorsements. Do they have any impact on you? Endorsements?
I think it depends. Like, I mean, I think for Conservatives to get a union to back them, that's pretty big. All these other guys like Mike Myers, well, he was paid to come up and do that, and then all these, and I mean, they're a bit of hypocrites because they go down to the States and make all their money down there, and then they blast the States up here. I mean, that's hypocritical. So they carry no weight with me, those guys. But I mean, you get a whole union to back you, and typically speaking, unions are the last people to support Conservatives. That's telling you something. Things are really rotten in the state of Ottawa, and the unions see it too, and they want it changed.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Very passionate opinions. Love that on Talkback. Be right back.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
3 election questions. I've really enjoyed the discussion today. This will probably be the last call of the day. We're going to go to Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Mark. How are you today?
I'm good. Happy Easter, and I absolutely love your show, man.
Well, I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say, and happy Easter as well for you and your family, everybody in your circle. When it comes to uniting the country, is there a party that might be better at it than the other parties?
Well, from what I'm hearing so far, I think the Conservative Party, in my opinion, would be the best to unite the country. And I say that because Poilievre talks about bringing it home, basically strong and free again, no division like it has been in the past 10 years. He just has a very, very strong message in my books, and I have a lot of faith in what he's going to do for the country.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. When you think about your own personal value set, what you believe in, what you stand for, obviously sound like a conservative supporter. So what is it about, say, the values of the conservative movement or the Conservative Party that align with your values?
Well, I have a family, obviously, and a couple nieces and nephews, and Pierre Poilievre is planning on making housing affordable and bringing down the inflation that Canada has suffered here in the past 10 years, and just making things back to the way they were. In my opinion, that's going to be huge for the younger generation.
Okay. May I ask how old you are? How old are you?
I'm 44.
44.
And again, I've been here since 93. So just the past, 15 years, I've been thinking and talking politics a little more than usual. But I've never seen a country so divided in the past 10 years. Like, I don't want to go on, but it's separated family members and everything in my end. So it's
really okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting. Endorsements, whether it's a celebrity endorsement, a newspaper endorsement, whatever, does that have any impact on you at all and how you vote?
For me, no. But I do have an opinion on like celebrities and rock stars and all those rich people that think they can sway the vote that way. I don't agree with it. I think they should be left out of these decisions. What they think and feel about a party has no bearing on what the regular person is going through, in my opinion. So what do they know? They're rich. They don't worry about anything really, right?
Right. Okay. They don't understand the struggles of everyday people.
They don't understand.
Right. Okay.
They make all this money. They're rich. They don't have to worry about all the little things we worry about. So.
Gotcha. Great points all around, Mark. Thank you for being the last caller today. You've carried us over the finish line. We will be back tomorrow. I suspect we'll be talking about one debate, getting you ready for another. Again, French language leaders debate. Of course, it'll be translated for those of us who are not fluent in the other official language. 3 hours away. It'll be a 2-hour debate. So 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock in Atlantic Canada. For the Maritimes, 7:30 in Newfoundland. And 4 o'clock in Calgary. I'm Rob Snow, back tomorrow. This is News Radio.